Hi, welcome back to our creative videos. This is Pam Hayes from Hayes Sewing Machine Company, and today we're going to be doing a zippered pouch. So I'm using a panel that has 4 of these, and if you've seen the other video, you saw that I did 2 for a placemat. So I was doing work with it and I'm thinking, they're so pretty, I don't necessarily want to have 4 placemats, so I'm going to make a pouch. What we did on the back is we used by Annie's Soft and Stable, I had to remember what it was, and we lined it up, and I did about 1 inch apart quilting. And this particular one is stitch number 4 on the Berninas, and it's the serpentine stitch, you know, the multi-zigzag stitch. A lot of machines have it. I went to about 5 in width and about 2 to 2.5 in length, but that's, you know, personal preference, whatever you like. The panel itself, when you start, it had quite a bit of a border around it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting it just outside the blue. Okay. It's going to be a lined pouch, and I'm also going to show you how to do a zipper so that has like the fabric ends to it. It gets rid of the kind of rigidity, there you go, rigidity of the metal parts, but it still holds the zipper together. So again, I have quilted all of it. So now we want to go and we're going to line it up. I'm doing my rotary cutter, and I'm just going to cut around the dark area of the blue. You can do whatever size you wish. If you wanted to make smaller ones, you know, just do a pouch that's that size.
Oh, that would be cute.
Yeah, it's cute. It just will give you a nice kind of option.
This size is nice. It would make a good project bag.
It would. And I'd only need about 3,000 of these. But that's okay.
Okay, how about the project that you're presently working on?
There you go, the project of the moment, yes. Yeah. All right, so at this point, I had this big discussion with myself, you know, how big was I going to make the notches? And I was like, oh, 1.5 would be good. And then when I kind of looked at 1.5, it seemed a bit tiny to me. So we're doing it 2 inches.
2 inches, okay.
2 inches. Now, the only thing you really want to make sure is please make sure you do it at the bottom.
Okay, all right.
We don't want any dead birds.
No.
That would be sad.
That poor little baby. The blood would run to its head.
And blood would run to its head. All right. Now, I am not secure enough in my rotary cutting skills to rotary cut this. So I mark it and then I cut it with a pair of scissors. Call me a chicken. I'm fine with that. And
It's in the corner, inside corner. It's so easy to go just a little too far.
yeah, you just go, you sneeze
And
once,
then your bag gets deeper.
and deeper and deeper and deeper, yes. All right, so again, I've done 2 inches, and I made sure it was at the bottom of the bag that I did so. And we're going to take, and I'm just going to cut the 2 inches. Now, when you're working with this, I am not going to finish off the edge because it's not really doing anything weird. I'm not doing this out of a linen or anything that would really kind of fray on me. But if you're working with something that you think, I'm going to have issues, then please do, you know, cut it and then overcast it. All right, so at this point, I have my 2 outside bits. Now, because I'm lining this, I got really fancy. I put my fabric on top, use the outside as a pattern piece, and I cut all the way around it. So you don't have to worry about numbers or anything like that. The lining,
No math.
no math. The numbers should match, you know, the line for the lining should match the outside of the bag. Unless you're doing something like hidden compartment or something like that. Okay. Now, what we are going to do next is figure out how long to make the zip. When you're working with it, I like my fabric, so if you scan down here, the end of my fabric is about a 1/2 inch, so I'm going to have like 1/2 inch seam allowances.
Mm-hmm.
So I line this up and I bring it over and I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to put a clip in here so it doesn't do any shifting or cha-cha. Okay, so I bring this over and I want to have it basically at the 1/2 inch mark. For me, it's always better to err on the side of a little shorter than anything else. Okay, so that's where I want my, again, fold of my fabric to be, where the line is. Well, I'll tell you one thing real quick. Open up your zipper.
Okay.
If you don't open up your zipper,
You get to do it again.
You get to do it again. And test your zipper to make sure it works.
Yeah, nothing's more frustrating than
No.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
getting it all together and then it doesn't work.
Now, math, don't worry about the math so much, but what we need to do is we need to have a piece of fabric that we can fold in. So I did about a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, and then we're going to fold it in half. So it's like bias binding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're then going to take and, no, only kidding. You can stitch across this if you're having one of those, oh no moments. Okay. But what we want to do is we now want to tuck it in. Like so. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we are not going to be doing this with...
All right, let me come around.
So we want to keep the teeth somewhat close. I've changed to a zipper foot, but probably technically to do this, you could do this with your regular foot. All right. But can you see how I'm not wanting it to do that?
So the teeth should touch?
Yep. I have the teeth touching. And I kind of hold it so it'll be a natural. You don't obviously, nor do you want to do the
Overlap.
So they just want to be touching.
They just want to kiss.
They just want to kiss. It's kind of like, just think of what does a zipper do in its natural life? You know? Now, doing this, the type of zipper that I'm working with is just a traditional dress zipper. Obviously, this isn't going to work well with, like, don't do this with metal.
Okay, yeah.
Zippers.
Sure. Yeah, because
Okay.
then you'd have to stitch through the
Well, and you're going to be
Crunch,
it's
crunch.
Not, crunch, crunch. Not going to work. Okay. So basically, that's what we want. Can you see how it, when you close it up, it's going to look very nice. Now, you'll notice and you're like, well, wow, that's really like wide for the fabric. True, because I find it easier to have something to hold on to, but you will trim it up.
So it trims up even.
Yep. So it's going to trim up
Perfect.
even. Okay. You know, I belong to the team that I'd rather have a little bit more fabric and trim it than, how do you staple fabric in or have to do it again? All right. So again, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, you can see that it is nice and even. All right, so now at this point,
And so that is so that you can get rid of the metal stops
Yes.
on both ends.
so it's nice, flexible, no metals.
And you're not going to hit it with your needle.
Not going to hit it with your needle. All right, so now at this point, we are going to top stitch. Now remember, we allowed for about a 1/2 inch seam. So you don't want to start changing your mind at this point. I'm putting right side down. And just throwing a couple of clips in. Okay. Remember, with your zipper foot, you're going to sew it about a 1/4 inch seam for the top.
1/4 inch away from the edge or 1/4 inch away from the teeth?
Yes.
Yes, about the same.
It's going to be about the same. I was
Okay,
gonna say it's about,
good enough.
About the same. All right, so now just sew along. And because this is a thicker material, because remember we're doing the foam, I would encourage you also to increase your length of stitch. I'm up to about 3. And we're just going to go and we're going to sew along. And I'll show you where I've stitched once I get it lined up. Now, at this point, I'm not worried about the lining, but I'm going to do that next. So we're just going to go. All right, so take a look. It's easier to see from the other side. So it's about a 1/4 inch.
Nice.
And if you can see it, I don't know if you can see.
Bring it down a little. There you go.
So you can see, honestly, it is about a 1/4 inch from the
From the
teeth
teeth.
and a 1/4 inch from the other. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go, and this is where I always have to think about it. I'm going to stitch this, my lining, and what I want to achieve, and I always have to pin it and see if it's going to work correctly. I do a lot less ripping out if I pin it, look, and then sew. What a thought, right?
That was Mom's thing when she was teaching us how to sew, wasn't
Yep.
it? Yes.
Because we always complain about, I always have to rip that out. She has pin, look, and then sew. All right, what am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve that when the finished project is I want wrong sides together.
Correct.
So how I'm doing that is I have put my zipper to the front of my panel, again tab down, and then I'm putting the right side to that same seam. Now, the only thing I would recommend for you is sew where you can see your line.
We're stitching right on top.
Yep, stitching right on top. Now, some people are like, well, I can do all at the same time. Put the zipper in and put the 2 pieces together. You go. Yeah, I find this a little easier for me, but whatever works for you. Because for me, it's just a matter of the zipper should be in the pouch. However you achieve that.
I like this way. I tend to put my zipper in between the pouch and then pin like crazy. But in some ways this is faster because you're not having to backtrack if the zipper
Yeah.
slips.
Now, you'll feel it start to get a little lumpy right there. Okay, so raise the foot and unzip the zip. And then it's so much easier. And what's nice, again, you don't have to worry about the metal. Because we have cut those metal pieces off. All right, So now we have sewn it on. We open it up and ta-da!
Yes.
Looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now at this point, we're gonna go. You could press this, and in fact, I think I will just give it a quick press. Remember, you have the by Annie's, the soft and stable in here, so it's not going to press as flat if you were doing just a plain old batting material.
Mm-hmm.
But you just want to kind of get it somewhat
Moving that direction.
moving that direction. All right, now I do top stitch this.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm just going to move my needle position over to the other side, and when we line this up, what I'm doing is I'm kind of finding where my foot, so my zipper foot, where I want that lined up to be the most consistent. And what I'm cheating a little bit, I'm pulling the lining
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't get baggy in
perpendicular.
there.
Yeah, so it doesn't get all so fancy, perpendicular, and all that. I'm thinking so it doesn't get wonky.
And I love that you changed the needle position. When I realized that the best way to sew in a zipper is to have the needle on the same side of the foot as the teeth of the zipper were, as soon as I learned that little fact, my zippers were 1,000 times prettier.
Yep. All right. So you see we've top stitched.
Yep.
Right
Beautiful.
along. All right. Now you like it once, you're going to love it twice.
There you go.
Now, the only thing you have to pay attention to when you line up for the other side, okay, take a look. You want your edges to be lining up. Okay, does that make sense, right? I don't want to see any of this.
Okay.
Okay, so just make sure it's all lined up proper. And we're going to repeat the process. But doing a zipper this way really isn't hard. Just make sure everything's lined up. All right, back to the same thing. When you start getting to the tab, if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, lift the foot, needle is down, and then continue sewing. All right, so we have done that side. We're now going to take, and again, Pam always has to think about it. We have right side, so this would be our right side. Now, when you're doing another little check, when you're doing the other side, your linings should be right side together.
Gotcha.
So that also works well. Just going to put a pin in there just to... Okay. And we're going to go and we're going to sew. we have now top stitched the second side of the zip. So now at this point, we're constructing. The zipper is in, and we're going to go and we're going to put right sides together for the outside of the pouch. And then we also want right sides together for the lining.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we can actually kind of sew it in one go. And let me just get the main portions together. So what I'm looking for when I push this together, I want the top of my bag to be lined up. That's kind of where people are going to notice it the most.
You put that under the camera again?
Absolutely. Let me just get it. All right. So,
Mm-hmm.
see that? I want that to be lined up. So I'm trying to get that as lined up as possible. Now, what's going to happen is on the side that's going to be on the outside, in my case, the quilted panel, I'm going to stitch all the way, not the corners, but all the way on the long sides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then you're going to go and you're going to stitch all the way, except on the lining part, you want to leave about a 6-inch opening. Because this is the only thing that's going to make this not a pot holder.
Okay, good enough. You need to be able to flip.
You need to be able to flip it. Now, at this point, it is also very, very, very important to make sure that your zip is open. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It could be 3/4 of the way. You know, you don't have to have it all the way to the end, but do yourself a favor and check that.
Okay.
Ask me how I know.
How do you know, Pam?
How do I know? Because all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to, you know, shape it. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So I'm starting at the bottom of the lining, leaving myself again an opening. Coming around.
And you've changed presser feet, right?
I have. I've gone back to my 1D foot, so it's going to make life a little simpler for me when I am sewing through my quilting. So I go along, and again, and you'll appreciate the fact that now you shortened the zip. Okay,
so you're not stitching through the zipper. Oh,
you're
that's
not
really
stitching
cool.
through the zipper. Yes. So it makes life a little simpler. Like I said, you'll appreciate it now.
So you don't want to catch any of that fabric in there?
Not really.
Okay.
No, you want to. Now, the goal is not to catch it.
Okay. Sometimes it happens. Is that what you're saying?
But that's the goal. The goal is we're not.
It's still better than hitting the zipper.
Oh
stop.
yeah, still better than hitting the zipper. So again, we're taking it, and we are. Again, we're stitching now on this one because this is the outside of my bag. I'm sewing all the way across the bottom seam.
Not leaving your opening.
I'm not leaving opening. Remember, you only leave the opening in the lining. So again, we're going to stitch across. Again, the seam allowance that I kind of did is the 1/2 inch. You kind of decide your seam allowance kind of early on in this bag. Because remember, I pulled the zipper 1/2 inch in.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted a 1/4 inch seam allowance,
You would have the zipper 1/4 of an inch in.
Applied knowledge. Look at you. All right.
That's what teachers like.
All right. And again, I'm just going to make sure that everything's meeting as nicely as possible. If you are and I say this lovingly, an anal retentive person.
Yes, they're referring to me.
No. There's sometimes
you could quilt tag it.
Yes, you can actually, but you would stitch this bit first, on either side, so you know that it's not gonna
do any shifting.
Just do any shifting.
Yep.
So, we all know who we are, and it's funny, for me, it comes and goes. It depends on what I'm doing. All right, so now we're gonna go and we're gonna finish up our...
In my case, it's more a case of the truth hurts.
Oh. All right. Get myself into trouble. All right, so now, you will see, I left a pretty big opening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm just going to stitch it by machine.
Okay.
Okay. People say, well, you can hand stitch that. Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm. Hand, a 4-letter word.
Yep, you're can. All right. Now, corners. Mm-hmm. Because at this point, we just have lovely openings.
Mm-hmm. Everything's going to fall out of your bag.
Everything's going to fall out of the bag. We're going to take, and we are going to fold it. And you can use this opportunity to press, have that seam pressed open. It's going to be more important, to be perfectly honest, when you're working with the Soft
and Stable.
Thank you, Soft and Stable, to have that pressed open, because you don't want to have that pushed to one side.
Okay.
All right. Again, we're going to do our 1/2-inch seam. And we're just going to stitch across. Now, this is the inside section that I'm doing here. So it's a good time to kind of practice your getting it right. All right, now we do the same thing. So see how, again, I just open it up. Could you go over to the iron and press these things open, especially in the lining section? Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I just finger press it, and remember, if you want to add steam. Now I'm just being silly.
Not sure that translates on the camera.
I blew on my fingers. You can add steam. All right. So done this side. Again, you could pin this. Oh, what's the challenge if you pin it, right? All right, so we have the 2 corners sewn in the lining.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to go and we're going to do exactly the same thing in our pouch on the pre-quilted side. So again, I'm going to try to get that lined up as nicely as possible. Now this one's going to be a little bit more puffy, I'm sorry, it's just nature of the beast. But at least Soft and Stable is is flexible, you can work with it.
I like it, you can sew through it really easily.
Yeah. It sews through.
Sometimes you get fusible interfacings that are like so stiff.
Yep, that.
I like things like Peltex or that kind of thing for like a placemat. Mm-hmm. But when you put it in a bag, it's so hard to flip it.
It is. All right, so now we're doing the same thing, making sure the seam is lined up. You'd be surprised when you work with any batting or any puffy thing, how much you use your forearms to get
squish,
things,
squish.
Squish, squish, to get things to lay down. right, and we're going to stitch across. Now, this is where you're going to truly appreciate the fact that you did open up the zipper. So remember, before you sew the perimeter, like we just did, you want to, and you want to, like I said, have a fairly decent opening. Again, mine is about 6 inches.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to sew a big opening, but then it's like,
But you can't get it.
I can't get it to flip through very well.
And look how nice that end is.
Hang on for a second. Oh yes, so pretty, so pretty.
So it's worth the time to do it. It just kind of gives your bags a little bit of polish to them, I think.
Yeah, because it's always there that it's kind of funky when you
Yep.
flip it around.
You should be a good girl. Have a point turner. Ooh. There you go. That's good. All right. Now we're going to do the same. Make sure the ends are nice.
Mm-hmm.
And put my hand inside one last time to get that. Look at that. It's going to be a beautiful edge. All right.
I like the way the stripe kind of makes a border all the way around that bag.
It's almost
Was
like
that
I
planned?
Planned it. All right. So now when we stitch around, I'm just going to close it up. Now, I know some people will hand do this. I just flip it under and
How far away from the edge do you usually stitch?
1/8 of an inch.
1/8 of an inch?
Yeah, teeny tiny. All right. So if you are working with doing a little tiny, if again you want it to be lined up and absolutely perfect, you're going to change to your edge stitch foot, which on the Berninas is number 10. That way you can, there's a guide on the foot and you can move your needle position to get it nice and where you want it to be. I'm just eyeballing this. I'm doing about 1/8 of an inch. And again, you can get out your hand needle.
We joke around about handwork because we are sewing machine girls, but
But we do know how to do it.
yes, we do know how to do it. But honestly, it's at the bottom of a bag. It's not really going to be seen.
And honestly, I'm going to have so much stuff in this bag that nobody will ever see the end of it. All right. So our job is now to tuck the lining in, and look at that.
That is absolutely gorgeous, Pam.
That is really, really pretty.
Can you spin it on the side? Do you see how the stripe goes down the side of
yeah.
and it carries all the way around underneath the bottom?
So
And
it does.
I'm like, wow.
Wow.
Very cool.
All right, and I'm going to use it for some of my knitting projects.
There you go.
All right, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.